Good morning, folks. Today we're going to talk about wool over eyes and much fear. We're also going to talk about actual data, a tidbit about solar flares, and we're going to look at some images of the sun. So join me, your host Dan, aka smAsho. First, we're looking at the colorized magnetogram N171 angstroms composite. We see some rising activity here on the eastern limb, pretty close to the equator. We did see a coronal mass ejection out of sunspot 2780, surprisingly. And there's a giant plume of plasma in between you and this sunspot 2781 right now. And the likelihood of M-class flares remains. And I'm not forecasting any M-class flares until the sunspot gets over into this area or farther. And it all has to do with the emission spectra of vibrational lattices. Since vibrational lattices do not emit photons perpendicular to their flat planes, that is why it is less likely for a large solar flare while a sunspot is directly facing Earth than it is when a sunspot is closer to the limb. Let's talk about the radial flux. A 10.7 centimeter radial flux down to 91 and still at levels not seen since 2017. So welcome to the non-solar minimum. Solar minimum is completely over, and there is a graph showing you levels not seen. Well, actually this graph doesn't show it, but the radial flux is actually way up here. So as you can clearly see, well off of solar minimum levels. I think there are 37 named sunspots right now. Here's a close-up of sunspot 2781, complete with the Earth scale in the upper right. And again, there's a huge plume of plasma in between you and that sunspot right now. We'll show you momentarily on the Gong 2 data. That plasma could suddenly release with absolutely no warning. And our regular viewers, thanks for tuning in. Our regular viewers are well aware of the fact that we don't need a solar flare for a coronal mass ejection. We don't need a sunspot for a coronal mass ejection. The sun is able to perform coronal mass ejections with absolutely no sunspots visible from Earth. Here's a 304 angstroms view. There is a coronal hole in between these regions here. It's pretty small. It's well defined. It's not really an issue. And by the way, I'm not forecasting, again, M-class flares until the sunspot gets over in that area. And let's move on to a Smash Lights segment, as we do segments here at the Smash News Network involving whatever we want to talk about, because sometimes your hand gets forced and you end up talking about things you don't necessarily want to talk about. Something I want to talk about is our patrons. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAsho. It's the real source of funding for the content, and we would greatly appreciate your support, financial support, as we're paid nearly nothing to make these videos. We are the only channel in the world. It's not Tamitha Skov, it's not Ben Davidson, and it's not NOAA or NASA forecasting coronal mass ejections, as our channel has proven time and time again over a period of a couple of years that we're able to forecast things that nobody else in the world can forecast. If you'd like those updates before anybody else, again, please consider becoming a patron. Thanks to our patrons, who are, again, the real source of funding for the content. Please consider becoming a patron to help ensure that these videos continue to exist, be publicly visible, and be free for everybody to see on the internet. Go check out our links at smAsho.com. One of the links there is the smAsho store. And today's featured shirt is the girl shirt in black. All Things Matter Black. And you can take this however you want. It's nonpartisan, since all things actually matter, especially condensed matter matters. Congratulations on surviving a global pandemic and being made of condensed matter. Check out the stores. The merch is lovely. And we're going to talk cosmology for a quick segment, a quick second in a cosmology segment. Because at the Smash News Network, we view heliophysics and indeed geology as part of cosmology, since the basis for a lot of geology and so on is the way the solar system formed, right? Now, we spend a lot of time talking about cosmic rays on the channel, and we actually monitor the actual data, and we don't cherry pick and talk a bunch of nonsense about cosmic ray data. We would invite you to please not
ossify
your beliefs about any aspect of science, because if you don't know the mechanism and the physics behind how something works, you're just throwing stuff at a wall and hoping something sticks. Let's talk about throwing stuff at a wall and hoping something sticks. Check out this quote.
We are at the modern cosmic ray maximum. There is...
Guess what? It's not true. So I don't know if you follow that channel or not. If you like our channel, please press like and subscribe on YouTube. Share with your friends and foes. Share with your science noobs and science pros. As we've got a lot of stuff to do. And YouTube, yeah, let's just say that they promote a bit of nonsense and they suppress a little bit of science. We're also on BitChute, and I would encourage you to branch out into alt tech. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you may not see gems such as this. Friendly reminder, the Electoral College, not the media, meets on December 14th to cast votes deciding who becomes president. Today's not December 14th. There are also some other gems on there about, just recently posted this morning indeed, about, I don't know, cosmic ray flux, and how this is total nonsense. And by the way, the motto of eyes open, no fear is the motto of a child in denial of reality who has never faced adversity. Eyes open, no fear. Look how scary space is. Buy my books. Eyes open, no fear. Buy my book because space is scary. By the way, if you see the S&P tank tomorrow morning, I think that means markets believe Joe Biden won. I don't think that the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ would be correlated because of the massive big tech companies associated with those indices who will not face any accountability if Joe Biden becomes president. So let's actually let the system work and stop doing all sorts of fraudulent things on the internet. How about that? Is that? Could you consider that a request? I think that's a good request. And let's take a look at the markets real quick. First of all, Bitcoin is at incredibly high levels. There's the 1-year chart of Bitcoin. Let me zoom that into the 1-month chart. You can see it's at $15,294 per Bitcoin. That is as reported by the Coinbase exchange. Let's take a look at Ethereum as reported by Coinbase. Ethereum has not reached the same spike that it saw back in early September, however, still at quite high levels as well. Ethereum, the second highest market capitalization for a cryptocurrency. I would advise you Monday morning, if you want to know what's going to happen, go to cnbc.com/markets and click on the pre-market. It may give you some insight into what's going on, as the S&P does comprise the largest 500 companies in the U.S. Again, I would seriously advise you to branch out into alt tech. Minds is a real alternative to Facebook. Thanks to our new subscriber over there on Minds, minds.com/smashamash. Also check out Gab. It's an alternative to Twitter. Perhaps you'll like that. Also follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/smashamash. We usually create the videos live as a live stream. Today, sorry, Twitch not doing it. And here ends today's Smashlight segment. To continue on with the Cosmology segment, we're going to do another dice throw today and look up a random object. So we're looking at numbers between 1 and 1031. Today's random number is 645, which according to the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory, 645, right? 645 is IGR J17285-2922, an X-ray binary. Could be interesting. Let's take a look at it on Simbad real quick. By the way, these are the X-ray transients from it. And it's actually been ramping down here over the past 30 days. Very steady X-ray output, historically speaking. And let's go look at Aladdin Light and see what's going on with this X-ray binary. Looks interesting. Let's see if it's associated with the Finkbeiner hydrogen alpha composite gas survey. Nope, we don't see it there. Here's an optical image, perhaps. Nope, I guess not. An interesting oblong-shaped system there. And there's a pretty good image of it. Not sure what's going on with that one. If you want to read more about that, let us know in the comments what you find out about IGRJ17285-2992, a catchy name, and entry number 645 at the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory. Now, yesterday we talked a little bit about blazars. Today we're not going to do so, but there is an interesting paper you may want to read, Jet Accretion Power in the Most Powerful Fermi Blazars, a survey of 23 blazars. And that's all we'll talk today about cosmology. Here's the current solar wind conditions. Solar wind being quite steady here over the past 24. Current solar wind density 7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed still elevated, but having ramped down off its highs to about 450 kilometers per second. KP index down to 1. Here's the Magneto hydrodynamic pressure of the magnetosphere, courtesy University of Michigan. It's 4 hours of data. We show it daily, just to see if we're crossing a galactic current sheet or not. Just kidding, folks. We're nowhere near a galactic current sheet, and there's no indication that we are. Next, looking at ground magnetic perturbations, and I would like to note something here. Is it possible the South Pole is moving to the west? Because the way these perturbations look, it looks like it's farther to the west than I expected it to be. Check it out right here. You can see it's looking like it's moving to the west there, perhaps. And that's always interesting, since we're living through a polar excursion right now. And part of the reason we show the data daily is because we're interested to see what's going on with the geospace. It's not understood how the Earth's geomagnetic field is generated. Leave us a comment if you've got theories or hypotheses. Here's the GOES X-ray flux, and you can see we haven't seen an M-class flare. Don't be surprised to see one in the next couple of days, unless that sunspot degrades. If it degrades, it'll become less likely at the same time that the emission angular spectra are more likely to produce a higher class detectable flare at Earth. Hey, Cygnus just rose. Hey, check it out, it's Deneb, one of the celestial pole stars at the, quote, other end of the precessional cycle, end quote. Anyway, that's what's going on. If you're up before dawn, you may see the moon and Venus and Mercury all rising before the sun. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week. It'll be a happy new moon. I may even sleep better than I slept last night. Next, looking at the GOES magnetometer. Nothing to write home about there. And now, here we go. So here's the Gong 2 data. And this is derived from 51 ground-based magnetometers here on Earth, as well as magnetometers on stereo A and stereo B at Lagrange point 5 and 4, respectively. Now, excuse me, if I bring up the last image here, you can see this jumbled up field force line area. That is because there's a huge plume of plasma being suspended by sunspot 2781. The Earth's potential field force line could snap across into the North Pole current sheet at any moment, as well as all of this ejecta could be released at any moment. So that's something to keep an eye on there. And when I say eye on, well, the pun is intentional. Keep in mind the data is an hour and 29 minutes old and could suddenly change with no warning. And another interesting aspect here is the B field, which is shown in the line of sight field plot in blue. And you can actually see that potential field force line jumble there. And it is a little bit west of the Earth, so it's actually just moving across what you'd call the prime meridian of the sun, the center line that's directly facing Earth. What the heck did I do there? The center line is directly facing Earth. You can see that blue area there, and that's going to mess with all kinds of things until it either releases, splashes back down on the sun, or, if the sunspot diminishes in power or produces a big flare, then all bets are off. But that's great insight into what's going on there, I think. And so yeah, keep an eye on stereo A's coronagraph, because If a coronal mass ejection happens, that's the best way to view it. Next, we're looking at the coronal magnetic field force plot. And you're going to see some oddities on this, again, because plasma orients to and is heated up by magnetic fields. Plasma isn't the magnetic fields. Plasma is not able to sustain any sort of a stable magnetic field, as plasma is a superheated gas, and superheated gases can't be stable magnets. So when you see these jumbled up field force lines like you see on this view here, that's an indication that there's a lot of material, ionized material, in between the magnetometer and the sun. So let's get back to more earthly pursuits here. Talking about electron flux, we don't see any significant charging hazards right now. Let me just hit refresh. No significant charging hazards. We're in a fairly moderate range of electron flux on a yearly scale. NOAA is forecasting a slight increase in the electron flux. Here's the current 3-day graph. And according to the NOAA forecast, we will get slightly into warning levels here. Here's a visualization of the whole air column, and we see significant electronic anomalies here. Once again over northern Canada and the US, as well as very high levels here over places like the Indian Ocean. So big GPS errors happening there. And you can see those big blobs of high electron flux over the northern regions. And a little bit of anomalous behavior going there over Antarctica as well. Next, looking at just the ionosphere layer. And I'll bring up the last image here. There's the latest image. It's from 1300 Universal Time. And we try to show objective data here at the Smash News Network because I'm interested in the truth and in the advancement of the science and a unified theory of physics and real understanding of cosmology and heliophysics and so on, not selling books, getting views, defrauding people, and lying to my viewers. Next, looking at earthquakes of the past 24, the largest was only a 5.3 magnitude. We saw some deep quakes, such as this 257-kilometer deep quake at Tonga. Here's a deep quake in the Caribbean at the Dominican Republic. A nearly 300-kilometer deep quake in Indonesia. A very shallow quake at Utah. And there's quite a lot of snow falling over the western portion of the U.S. We'll get to it in a minute. Please leave us a comment if you think we should rename the channel to the Snow News Network. Oh wait, somebody's already got a monopoly on that? Okay, I won't do it. Let's look at volcanodiscovery.com. Here's the erupting volcano list. Kluchevskoye is producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. Abiko is producing a 7,000-foot ash plume. Suwanosejima is producing a 6,000-foot ash plume. Semaru is producing a 13,000-foot ash plume. Ravenador is exploding. Flight level 140 there, 14,000 feet. Sabancaya is exploding. Flight level 240 there, 24,000 feet. And Villarrica, back on the list, exploding. Flight level 140, it's producing a 14,000-foot ash plume. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Next, looking at this, first of all, this low over, looks like it's over Montana there. And it's actually kind of a double low or a triple low. There's a lot of low pressure in that area, put it that way. And also we're going to look at, these are surface winds, by the way, folks. We're looking at the winds at the surface level. And here's the hurricane, which is directly, or it's a tropical system. I don't know exactly what the wind speeds are. Let's check. .49-mile-per-hour winds. Anyway, that's what's going on at the surface levels. Let's get back to the jet stream, which is what we normally look at. Here are the jet streams of the Western world. Extreme meridional jet stream flow continuing on, as well as a backward jet stream here over the southern Pacific, blowing east to west instead of west to east the normal way. Here are the jets of the eastern world. Meridional jet stream flow, not a flat jet stream. I don't know why anybody would say such a thing, but there's the reality. Here's where pressure cells are now, according to the GFS forecast. Here's where we expect them to be at 12 noon tomorrow. Pretty high pressure over the eastern seaboard. Next, lightningmaps.org. We want to see where lightning strikes are happening as we try to tie together a lot of variables, and I immerse myself in the data to understand the relationship between said variables. Here's the GOES lightning mapper, and quite a bit of lightning over the Caribbean still, going on for a couple of weeks now. US Doppler radar maps, lots of snow falling here. Shout out to Diamond, drop me a line, we'll make a video. We'll put snowflakes in the background. You can talk all about snow for as long as you want. We'll temporarily rename to the Snow News Network. David Moriello, aka Diamond of the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, now has 18 YouTube channels instead of only 3. Next, looking at the Shortwave Radiation Map, and you can see there are actually 2 systems here. This is an upper level low, and there's also a bunch of low clouds here, which is why it looks so weird. It's because of altitudes of clouds. And here's the water vapor map. It should give you some insight into how this thing is moving. And it indeed looks like it's going to get stuck here. It's probably likely to make a turn, as this dry mass of air is going to act like a wall. Don't believe me? Just watch. And we're going to actually zoom in here on the Great Salt Lake, as that interesting low has got my attention. There you go. And it's about that time to cut this one a little bit short. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Again, please share on your social media, press like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Press the notification bell. Visit our links. Go to smashomash.org, smashomash.com. Go buy yourself some merch, since all things matter, especially the truth and the advancement of the actual science. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, since we've got bonus features. We're going to show you the colorized magnetogram. We're going to show you the intensitygram. And we're going to show you the 335 angstroms view over the last 48 hours from the SDO. Why? Because we want to see what's going on with the sunspots. Why did the sunspot cross the sun? To get to the other heliospheric longitude. So here's the colorized magnetogram. Here's sunspot 2780. 2 small umbrae there make it a beta class sunspot. Here's sunspot 2781, which has a beta delta gamma set of fields. It is shrinking a little bit. The lead umbra is smaller than it was yesterday, as well as the trailing umbra. So it looks like it's degrading to me, which actually reduces the probability of large flares. Again, we don't expect to see any M-class flares until it gets into this region. And it all has to do with the angular aspects of the emission spectra of condensed matter vibrational lattices. Here are the umbrae from sunspot 2780, pretty weak. And here are the umbrae from 2781, not so weak, but they've shrunk since yesterday. As I've stated, here's a 335 angstroms view. And this is 48 hours, so it should show you a bunch of flares. It might even show you the small coronal mass ejection that came out of sunspot 2780, which is the northern one. And indeed, you can see it on there. We are out. We may produce another video today, so stay tuned to the channel. Again, visit our links. smashomash.com contains all of them. We'll see you next time. May that solar wind be at your back and that covidiously absent from your location. Covidiocy. Noun. Tendency for people to act in an idiotic fashion in response to coronavirus and the global scamdemic.